What's up, everyone? Tara Roberts here with 444, and this is a very important video. Sell, sell, sell before it's too late. What players are we bailing out on before things go sideways? Before we get started, remember to like this video and subscribe. And if you want more fantasy insights and tips, head over to 444.com/plans and sign up for a subscription today. And exclusively for our YouTube audience, use promo code YouTube at checkout to save 25%. Now let's go ahead and dive right in. This first one, people, you're not going to want to hear it, so let's go ahead and kick the video off with some controversy. Sell Tua Tagovailoa before it's too late. Miami's offense leads the league in passing yardage, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and is second only to Baltimore in rushing yardage. This team is an offensive juggernaut. But when Miami faces stiff competition, this offensive juggernaut comes back down to reality. And reality is not that bad. They're still a good offense, but from a fantasy perspective, it's a problem. Against teams like the LA Chargers, Denver, Carolina, Tua regularly stays above 20 fantasy points and has strong QB1 performances. But let's check out his stats in games where he's played tough teams. Against Buffalo, Tua had 25 completions on 35 attempts for 282 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That's not a terrible real football day, but from a fantasy perspective, that was 14 points. Against Philadelphia, 23 completions, 32 attempts, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, good efficiency, bad fantasy performance of 10 fantasy points. Against Kansas City, 21 completions on 34 targets, 193 yards and 1 touchdown, 12 fantasy points. Tua is a good quarterback, and he thrives in good matchups. But in bad matchups, a pocket passer like Tua just can't overcome low output. But hey, we take the good with the bad and we roll out Tua. There's just one problem here. Tua's fantasy playoff schedule is the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Ravens. Get out now, sell now, or at the very least, start putting out feelers to see who's interested. The Dolphins are on a bye week, but you can use their Week 11 matchup against the Raiders as bait. Now, with this next player, Khalil Herbert was designated to return from IR, and you should designate him for sale immediately. Take advantage of the excitement that he's returning and the memory of that one good shining performance and see if you can get a buyer. There is no schedule concern here. Chicago does have some great matchups for running backs ahead. Carolina this week, Arizona in week 16. And while it's tempting to hold on to him for those matchups, I don't think it's ultimately worth it if you can get good value out of him. The problem is that we've only seen one strong performance from Herbert this season. One. His week 4 fantasy performance of 18 carries for 103 yards and 4 receptions for 19 yards and 1 touchdown. Do you remember who the matchup was against? It was Denver. It's very possible Herbert's performance was literally just matchup driven and not an indication of things to come. Again, the matchup against Carolina is juicy, and it's a Thursday night game, so if you can't get your trade in before the game, you could still try and swing it after what is hopefully a strong performance. I'd rather bail out while you can than stick around to see how this messy committee ultimately shakes out. The next player that we want to talk about here is Amari Cooper. It feels weird and counterproductive to say sell Amari Cooper with Deshaun Watson finally healthy. Cooper's week 9 performance wasn't high in terms of target volume, but Cooper caught all 5 of his targets for 139 yards and a touchdown. We would be remiss not to mention that it was also against Arizona. It's possible Watson does finish the season strong, though, and Cooper is the big beneficiary. But let someone else take that gamble and sell while you can. Cooper is a volatile player. There is no way around that. For every 20 fantasy point performance, there's a 5 fantasy point performance. He's a high-end version of Gabe Davis that gets a pass on inconsistency because he is the clear wide receiver 1 on his team. So you take the good with the bad, knowing that there's typically more good. The road ahead is not fun. In fact, it is one of the literal worst QB wide receiver strength of schedules, like literally dead last. Again, let someone else deal with it. Sell high off of this big week 9 performance, and you can rest easy. And let's talk about one more player. This is not a sell high, it's just a get out and run. Something is just not right with DK Metcalf this season. He's been banged up, and I'm sure that's played a major role in it. But on top of the injuries, he just seems generally frustrated. Perhaps that has to do with the production that he's had this season. Metcalf is wide receiver 46 in total points and wide receiver 36 in average points per game, averaging just 12.2 fantasy points per game. That's ugly. The connection with Geno Smith just hasn't been there, and Geno has struggled all season long, and even when he's aggressively targeted Metcalf, the production wasn't there. In week 6, he had 9 targets and only caught 4 of them. In week 8, he had 14 targets and only caught 5 of them. He's been touchdown dependent, and even the touchdown doesn't really give you much upside. The remainder of their schedule is actually pretty pass friendly, but with one caveat. It is against the league's best teams. San Francisco twice, Dallas, Philadelphia. I just have a bad feeling that Seattle's Week 9 performance is a sign of things to come. And that wraps things up. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like the video and comment below. And if you want more fantasy insights and tips, head over to 444.com/plans and sign up for a subscription today. And exclusively for our YouTube audience, use promo code YouTube at checkout to save 25%.